sound speeds. Now let me ask you, do you know the name Will Hirsch? Because if you don't, go check out his Ballast Flipping YouTube channel right there, and I can almost guarantee you'll watch at least a couple of them. Kind of addicting. But what does that have to do with sound? Well, it doesn't, but here's two things I will tell you about him. Number one is he helped me with my Deity HDTX review. You can even see him in a short little piece right there where he has a cameo. But the other thing he did is he introduced me to something called Adobe Podcast AI. And I'm going to introduce you to that in this video. If you go to podcast.adobe.com and go through a simple registration process, it will take you to the beta test of a speech enhancement AI software that Adobe is currently working on. All you have to do is drag your audio in there, or you can click upload and go find it on your hard drive. And then once it's done processing, it will simply ask you, where would you like to download it to? So what makes this so special? Well, consider for 1 second where AI algorithms are taking us. You can upload a couple of pictures of yourself to a website, tell it in what style you would like it to output artwork of you, and then it will create artwork that will be surprisingly realistic and probably kind of scare you a little bit if you wear a tinfoil hat. But those AI algorithms can be trained to do different things, like completely eliminate background noise. Like, for example, the background noise of Jake Sloan's drones that I did in another video. Now, where am I going with this? Well, let me introduce you to what it is capable of doing right now as of the time of this video. And granted, it is in the very earliest possible steps and process of this, but this is a first look at a public beta of it. It's only going to get better from here. Just check it out. Now, keep in mind, the audio from this is going to flip back and forth between the AI processed and a leveled version of the actual audio I recorded on the day. So see for yourself how accurate this really is. It's always breezy in the winter when you don't want it to be, and never in the summer when you want it to be. But that's the reality of the world I'm living in. But if you hear wind hitting the camera, that's intentional. I'm about 2 feet away from the microphone on top of the camera. And it's simply the microphone that's built into the Sony ZV-1. Now, I'm going to start backing up ever so slightly, but I want you to at least see what I'm dealing with here when I start about 2 feet away from the camera. As I slowly start to back up, I'm not wearing a lot. There is no lavalier microphone on me, otherwise you'd hear me hitting it, right? But I'm going to start backing up now to see what it would be like. Now I'm about 4 feet away from the camera. A car just went behind camera, so we'll see how well this sounds. Now I'm going to back up a little bit more to 5 feet, and this is going to be a test where you can start to hear me fall off as I go farther and farther away. I'm not going to be changing my volume at all. Just, speaking at the normal volume I would be if I was presenting it in a relatively quiet place. Now I'm 6 feet away, and I'm going to back now up to closer to about 8 feet away. Still directly on mic, going straight down to the camera, direct address to the camera. I'm not going to be raising or lowering my volume at all, and speaking now about 10 feet away from the camera. Which, for not having a lavalier microphone or anything like that, this is what we're dealing with. I intentionally chose this jacket for 2 reasons. Number one, going back 12 feet from the camera, is because it is a little bit noisier. It's a bit more insulated than any other jacket I have, but it's a bit noisier. And because of that, it's also going to be better at resisting the wind and stuff that's going to be hitting me now about 14 feet away from the camera. And so my voice is still at a regular talking volume. And now I'm going back up to 16 feet away from the camera to see how well it sounds now. There's about to be another car that goes behind the camera right now. It's just crossing behind the camera as I back up now to, what is this, about 18 feet, did I say? Or 16 feet? I'm starting to lose it now. I should put it up on screen right now so that way you see it. Give myself more post work. That's always a fun thing to do. I think now about 20 feet away from the camera though. And as I get this far away, you are probably going to start hearing more artifacts as the AI tries to differentiate between my voice and the background noise that we're listening to. One of the reasons I also chose this particular location, backing up 2 more feet, is because there is high tension power lines directly overhead. And as we know, those can cause a lot of EMI and RFI type, more EMI than anything, radiation. And that could, backing up 2 more feet, hopefully I don't step onto a snake because there are snakes in this area. And, but I want to see if that kind of EMI interference is going to affect my microphone. As I was setting up the camera, about 2 more feet back, as I was setting up the camera, it was quite literally buzzing. I heard a buzzing next to the camera. It seemed to be coming from the camera as I back up 2 more feet, and I thought that was kind of interesting. The buzzing was coming from the camera, and as I circled around the camera, I was hearing the buzzing from the camera direction. So I don't know if that was the microphone or the speaker perhaps on the inside of the camera, backing up 2 more feet. But if it was, quite interesting, because we do know that there's a high amount of DMI and RFI can cause interference in speakers. A camera, or rather a car just drove behind the camera, and there's a little bit more, backing up 2 more feet, of wind now than there was a moment ago. Right now I'm getting pretty far away from the camera. If you're still able to hear me, despite the fact that there is nothing overhead or anything like that, you see me back up. You hear how I'm sounding as I back farther and farther away. This is 2 more feet away. At any point in time, I may cut out of this, depending on how the AI is doing, or I might stick with it because during my initial test, it was sounding a little bit goofy at times. But I'm gonna back up 2 more feet, roughly, and we're gonna see how well this sounds at this point. But I'm literally about to run out of sunlight out here, and that's the reason why I was out doing a bunch of shopping earlier, and I said to myself, I definitely need to go out there and shoot this while I can, because as I back up 2 more feet, it would be one of those things that I would hate to have missed out on the opportunity to do this test tonight, because tonight is a good night for me. But regardless, at this point, if you're not using a lavalier microphone as I back up 2 more feet, and you're still hearing me, then this is doing a lot of good. The AI built into that Adobe suite for podcasting can be used quite effectively if indeed you are hearing me as close sounding as it was in my initial test. I honestly think that at this point, it should be very far away sounding. It shouldn't sound good at all. It's probably going to create a garbled mess of sound depending on how well the wind happens to be hitting the microphone. And, well, basically that. If the microphone is getting hit with a lot of wind, or even just as my voice starts to mix in with the noise floor of that outside environmental noise, the noise of the world around me is going to start to be louder because there is a bit of a busy road over that direction. There's a little bit of traffic behind me, which you can see back there. And if my voice starts to become as quiet as those sounds are in the background, it's going to make it a little more difficult for the AI software to differentiate between my voice and the background noise that it's hearing. So you can see how far away I am from the camera right now. And this is just obviously an approximation of how far away it is. And again, if you're not using any sort of a microphone, a lavalier microphone, which I am definitely not wearing, you can see that I'm quite literally making all these noises while facing the camera and touching the jacket that I'm wearing, backing up 2 more feet. And if you are still able to hear me at this point in time, even though there's about to be another car that's passing by behind the camera, and I take that back, there's 2, there's another one right there, then I call this quite effective. And there's a third, because it's now at the time that everybody's going to be coming home. I'm going to back up 2 more feet, and there's yet another car. So this is the 4th car going behind the camera. If you're still able to hear my voice, all cool. I'm going to keep on with these tests because I don't know how much longer. There's another SUV passing by. I don't know how far back I'm going to be able to go and with this AI to actually the sound. Like you're going to hear all the garbling goods. It's still like done, and you're no longer able to hear it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm at the farthest distance away that I did in my testing. I'm going to now walk back towards the camera, so you're going to be able to see exactly how far away I am and to hear at what point the AI starts to be effective on my voice. I'm not raising or lowering my voice at all. I'm basically keeping a constant and facing directly towards the camera and the microphone that's built in on this camera, which is the Sony ZV-1. The microphone that's on top of the camera is just built into the camera. It's a little bitty small thing, and it's quite literally 2 feet away from my mouth right now. And we'll see how well I almost said Topaz AI. That's the program I use for upscaling. We're going to see how well the Adobe AI podcasting, currently beta, free software is going to do with my voice. Kind of scary where we're headed with this, right? I mean, considering where the algorithms are right now in the beta form, it's only going to get better from here. Now, remember, technology is responsible for a lot of really cool things. 25 years ago, people were having to manually search the foulest things on the internet in order to build filters for them to prevent kids from accidentally running into that. And then, of course, algorithms were responsible for putting Cyber Nanny and other such services out of business. And now, 25 years later, we're seeing exactly how damaging algorithms can be when they're in the hands of big tech. It's pretty rare that the same company that introduces a piece of tech or is responsible for its initial hype and success is the same company that 25 years later is the one that you know it for. Like, for example, before Google, if you were around back then, what was your search engine 25 years ago? If you're like me, it was most likely Alta Vista or Yahoo. But what was your ISP 25 years ago? Currently, I'm on fiber, but back then I was on Earthlink, and if you were not on AOL, then you were part of the minority. But is AOL your internet service provider now? My point here is this is the very initial stages of something that could be very big. Now, granted, this is a podcast audio enhancement for your voice, but you can see how powerful it was when it came down to me recording camera sound when I was even 40 or 50 feet away. Think about where this is going to be in only a couple of years. If you want to check this out for yourself, there is a link down in the description. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Soundspeeds. Be sure to tune in the future for more really cool YouTube channels like Will Hirsch's, more tech that you should be aware of, and of course, as always, sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.